There are so many ways to design wispy lash sets, but in this video I'm going to show you how to recreate my moneymaker. It's the one lash set that the girls are always requesting with good reason. It's got volume, it's catty, it's got a few spikes to give that wispy look. It's honestly a set that can suit almost anyone. I'm also going to be showing you how I analyze my clients' natural features, their eye shape and their eye anatomy, so I know how to personalize their lash map. So this is my beautiful client here. She has got stunning bold eyes and eyebrows. The first thing we want to look at is the eye shape itself. Straight off the bat I can tell that she has got almond eyes, and I'm going to show you a few characteristics so that you can look for the same things. So the first giveaway that these are almond eyes is they are longer in width than they are taller in height. When it comes to round eyes, you'll see that they're not as wide typically, they're more a perfect circle, but this one is clearly an oval shape and it's resembling an almond. Another thing that we can commonly pinpoint about almond eyes is that the iris, which is the colored part of the eye, is touching both the lower lash line and the top lash line. With round eye clients, sometimes you can see the whites of their eye below, but because almond eyes are a lot more sleek, the iris does tend to touch the top and the bottom because it's filling up a more condensed and shorter amount of space. The next thing we want to look at is the lash line, because this is what's actually going to hold the lashes, and if we don't map according to where the lash line is sitting, lashes can droop on the end or they can sit too tall in the middle. So what we're going to do here, go to the markup tool when you're editing the photo and pull up the ruler options. We're going to line it up with the middle of their pupil and then going to draw a line right through the middle of it. So what we want to look at here is the lash line and where it is sitting in regards to the line that we've drawn. So it's ending only just below the line we've drawn right here, which indicates there is a teeny tiny slight downturn in the eye. If it finished above the line, it'd be a lot more straight across as opposed to downturn. Sometimes the lash line can sit a lot higher than the line as well, meaning they've got an upturned eye. But for this client, the lash line is relatively straight across. It's not coming down too far. If it was sitting somewhere here, that would be a heavier downturn eye, meaning we'd probably have to stay away from a cat eye look because it could potentially droop the eye down too much. But this lash line right here is pretty versatile. Now, because the lash line is still sitting a little bit lower than that line, we're not going to pack lashes on the outer corners on the very end because you risk it looking heavy and droopy. But there's an easy way to navigate that, and it's simply just leaving maybe four to six natural lashes without an extension. This is just really going to snatch that corner and have them sitting lifted and really nice. Another consideration when it comes to lash mapping is the lid space. So we can see here that there isn't a lot of space between her crease and bottom of her eyebrow. It does open up a lot more here, which is typical. In saying that, a cat eye is going to be perfect for this brow structure and lid space because the shorter lengths are going to fit in nicely on the first couple thirds of the eye, and then we can slowly increase the length to really build that flick and catty look. Now let's get into the actual mapping. First things first, we're going to decide the longest length that we want to use. Now, because we are doing a wispy look, we need to decide the longest length of the spike. So we've established that there's more lid space on the second half of the eye towards the end, which is of course where we're going to have the longest lengths. So we're looking at using around 15 or 16 for those spikes. And then of course, when we're working on the inner and the middle of the eye, we're not going to go putting 15mm spikes because they're just going to touch the eyebrow, and that's not what we're going for. A spike here. Here. So for this set, we're focusing on achieving both volume and wisp. Therefore, we're only going to put in a few feature spikes. I've mapped out 5 spikes, but you can do anywhere between 5 to 7. I'm going to work from the outer to the inner. 16mm, 15, 14. So these are going to be our spike points. I'm just going to erase that because we're going to fill that space with the base lengths. When it comes to creating a cat look, we want to use a really extreme range of lengths. The bigger the difference between the shortest length to the longest length, the more extreme the cat eye is going to come out. There's also a rule of thumb that we follow when it comes to base layer lengths versus spike lengths. We always want to make sure the spikes are at least 3mm longer than the base length. So if we've got 12mm on the inner, we need to make sure that the base length is going to be no longer than 9mm. Because I want to really taper this look, I'm going to put in a few 8mm in this section. I'll do the 9s up to the start of the iris in this section here. We need to make sure that up until the start of the last third, pretty much where the iris ends, which is right here, we need that section to be as short as possible, because if we start getting too long in this section, it's going to create more of a dull open eye look, which we're obviously not going for in this case. Keeping in mind that we've got our spike lengths as well, so we can't go any longer than an 11 or 12mm anyway. I'm going to go with a 10. So we've got 8, 9, 10, and then now we want to start building that catty flick. I will always jump up a couple lengths when it comes to creating the flick because again, we need a drastic difference. I'm going to jump from a 10 to a 12 millimeter. Nothing crazy, only 2 millimeters. I'm then gonna go with 13 millimeters. If you're familiar with a kitten eye basically means we're following the traditional cat styling of short to long. On the outers, we'll actually drop down a couple lengths so that the longest lengths aren't on the very corner where they risk drooping. The shorter lengths that we put there, so in this case, if we've gone 13 is the longest, to make it a kitten eye, we'd put maybe a couple 12 millimeters and 11 millimeters, and it's just gonna hold them up and provide support for that flick and the longer length. But as I mentioned in the start of the video, I'm just going to leave those very outer lashes bare, and it's going to provide a very similar purpose of keeping things lifted and not droopy. Because her lash line wasn't super downturned anyway, this tells me that we can afford to do that. If the lash line was super downturned, I would definitely put those shorter lengths in, the 12 and the 13 millimeter here, because a downturned lash line would need that support, but in this client's case, she doesn't. Essentially it. If you want to throw a few more spikes in to give it an even wispier effect, you can definitely do that, but I'm going to keep it to this. So for the dimension of the fan, you can do whatever you classify as a medium volume fan. For me, that's probably around 8 fibers per fan. And then with the spikes, we just want to make sure that the spikes are at least the same thickness as the fan. So if we are doing 8 fibers per fan on the base layer, we want to make sure the spikes are at least 8 fibers themselves as well. I usually pick up a little bit more just to make sure they're visible and bold. So let's just say I did 10D fans for the spikes. So you guys can go ahead and screenshot this. Let me know if you guys have any further questions. I thought I would just make this as an introductory video to what's behind my styling techniques and what I look at in regards to eye shape and brow structure and stuff like that. I've got further information in my bio if you do want to check out my Instagram or my website if you want to shop products and courses. Otherwise, thanks for watching and I'll see you in my next video.